Benjamin Franklin once said, "A nation of well-informed men who have taught to know and prize the rights which God has given them cannot be enslaved. It is in the region of ignorance where tyranny begins." Truer words have never been more relevant, especially given our current situation. False flag terrorist attacks. Privately owned central banks. The military-industrial complex. Big Pharma. Big Agra. All tools of the globalist agenda. But the suppression of free energy technologies has to be the most powerful weapon in the globalist arsenal. Prominent scientists and inventors like Thomas Bearden, Nikola Tesla, John Keeley, and others have just about been banished to the trash heaps of history for their works in free energy technologies. Tesla, now probably one of the most famous inventors that undoubtedly has been suppressed, demonstrated that free energy is possible. In the early 20th century, Tesla began on his most ambitious project, the Wardenclyffe Tower. With the promise of the capability to transmit wireless energy to any point on the globe, a now classic quote from Tesla's investor, J.P. Morgan, asked, "Where can I put the meter?" Tesla regrettably had no answer. It was clear that to Mr. Morgan, making a profit stood at odds with Tesla's humanitarian views. After losing Wardenclyffe to Morgan, Tesla was unable to convince any other investors to invest in his ideas. Research shows that a determined Morgan advised other investors to avoid Tesla's project. As it is known, Tesla died January 7, 1943 in New York City, a broken man heavily in debt. Regarded as a crazy man who would say anything to woo investors, Tesla's tragic flaw was having a genuine humanitarian dream. As the saying goes, history is bound to repeat itself. Ladies and gentlemen, is history repeating itself? Director of the Resonance Project, Nassim Haramein, a prominent unconditioned self-taught physicist, has recently well-deservingly received the Best Paper Award at a peer-reviewed conference in Belgium in 2009 for his controversial work on the nature of the atom, confirming once again that space can't be thought as empty, but full of energy. Although his work has been peer-reviewed by physicists, he has yet to receive the recognition and notoriety in a public domain, almost certainly due to the implications of his work. A society free from the death grip of a fraudulent, tyrannical patriarch is a society which stands a chance at true freedom. Nassim's controversial work on the atom also mathematically reveals that protons in the nuclei of the atom are entangled. In other words, mathematically demonstrating that everything is one. Although statements like this prove controversial, mathematically it's showing to be accurate. Fortunately, his work is still available online, but internet censorship legislation could be a devastating blow to all alternative ways of thinking. Haramein has a great way of breaking things down, putting his work in an easy-to-understand context, yet providing sound logic. Of course, you will find opposition to his theories, which is not uncommon in this type of field, but when your work promises free energy, you're bound to encounter fierce opposition, especially in the energy sector. Unrestricted by what some would call a laughable educational system, Haramein was able at a young age to develop a true unified theory, touching on biology, psychology, new medical applications, ancient civilizations, and so on. He is bridging some of the biggest chasms known in our modern understanding. For example, we currently have cosmology, which deals with very big objects, and then we have quantum theory, which deals with the very small. Yet the two theories don't agree. But observation shows that big things are made out of small things, to quote Haramein, so obviously the two theories must agree. Haramein's work using his hollow fractal graphic theory will allow him as an inventor to develop technology that would pose great challenge to the globalist agenda, which is almost certainly why suppression or lack of acknowledgement of this research has been a key strategy of the globalist. Now the combination of suppression and what I feel is just as equally as powerful, the Federal Reserve, is proving to be extremely powerful. Now I'd like to add, although nuclear war and genetic manipulation are trump cards of the globalist, supporting free energy technology could in theory permanently immunize us from those harms. So what can we do? How do we fight? It's obvious to me that we use the weapons of the globalist against them. By raising awareness through the internet and financially supporting worthy causes like the Ron Paul campaign, PrisonPlanet.tv, the Resonance Project, and others. I'm afraid the time is drawing near. Now, at the same time, there is an obvious awakening on a global scale which no doubt the globalists fear. So, Infowars, what is it going to be? Sit there and hope that someone else does something about our obvious dilemma? Or do something with the little time we have left? Continuing to ignore this problem will no doubt lead to the imminent takeover of the little constitutional rights we have left. There will be a time when the police state is so obvious, so powerful, so overwhelming, that resistance at that time could prove futile. Brothers and sisters, just take a look around. Chemicals in the air, poisons in the food, sterilants in the water, constant lies from the mainstream media, obvious economic and political fraud. How obvious does it need to get before we do something? Do we wait for a knock at the door at 2 a.m. with trucks waiting outside to take us to FEMA camps we know exist? Or do something, anything with the little time and money we have left? The hour is getting very late. Think of our children that will be most affected by this. We cannot allow this globalist agenda to succeed. Our founding fathers would be turning in their graves if they knew what we were putting up with. In 1776, America fought a war of independence. Now look at us. We're turning into the most dependent country on earth. Not just a dependent country. It's turning into a lethargical, gullible, zombie-like nation when we should be the beacon of freedom. Tens of thousands of children die every day from unnecessary hunger and preventable diseases. Our brave soldiers are still dying due to corporate interest. I cannot take this anymore. I am willing, ready, able, and unafraid. I am fully aware that this is no joke. Blatant lies, harassment, and ridicule will come our way. So be it. This is Robert Santana reporting for Infowars.com.